Let's start with Lies of P. It's one of those games that takes a classic story and flips it into something totally unexpected. I mean, a dark, twisted version of Pinocchio? Who saw that coming? From the moment I started playing, I knew this wasn't going to be the fairy tale we all grew up with. Instead, it throws you into this grim, steampunk world where everything feels eerie and dangerous. The atmosphere is on point. There's this constant tension in the air, like you're never quite safe, even when you're just walking through a quiet alley. The game wears its inspirations on its sleeve, and if you've played Bloodborne or Dark Souls, you'll feel right at home here. The combat is that familiar, deliberate style, where every swing of your weapon matters, and timing is everything. But Lies of P adds its own twist, with the weapon customization system. You can mix and match blades and handles to create your own combos, which gives you a ton of freedom to experiment with different builds. It's honestly so satisfying when you find a combination that just clicks with your playstyle. The enemies are no joke. Each one feels like a real threat, and you can't just rush in and expect to button mash your way through. You've got to be patient, learn their patterns, and strike when the moment is right. And the bosses? They're some of the most intense encounters I've had in a while. Every time I thought I was getting the hang of things, a new boss would come along and completely wreck me. But in the best way. It's that feeling of frustration followed by pure joy when you finally take them down. If you're into challenging combat, Lies of P is definitely worth your time. It's one of those games that stays with you. Next we have Sifu. What's crazy about Sifu is how brutal it can be. I mean, you're this martial artist out for revenge, and the combat system is so fluid, but also super challenging. It's not the kind of game where you can just mash buttons, but the real twist? The aging mechanic. Every time you die, your character ages, and it changes how you play. As you get older, you hit harder, but lose health. It's such a clever way to keep the tension high. You're constantly trying to balance staying alive while still taking risks. There's this internal struggle like, do I push through this fight now, or should I retreat and try again later? The more you age, the fewer chances you have to finish your mission, which makes every death feel meaningful. The level design is awesome too. You're moving through these beautifully crafted environments, from neon-lit nightclubs to serene temples. Each one feels like a love letter to classic kung fu movies. The game's art style is sleek and minimal, but the environments are so detailed, and the atmosphere is on point. You really feel like you're living out this martial arts epic. What I also loved is how Sifu doesn't hold your hand. The difficulty can be punishing, but in a way that makes you want to get better. It's all about learning from your mistakes and coming back stronger. Each time you die, you're learning the enemy's patterns, figuring out new strategies. It's got that Dark Souls vibe where every failure is a lesson. If you love a good challenge and want to experience some of the best hand-to-hand combat in gaming, Sifu is a must-play. Next we have It Takes Two. It's easily one of the most creative co-op experiences I've ever played. From the very start, you realize that it's not your typical platformer. It's all about teamwork. Whether you're playing with a friend, partner, or even someone you just met, the whole experience becomes this shared journey that's honestly so much fun. The level design is incredible. Every single level is packed with unique mechanics that are specific to that environment. 1 minute, you're in a garden where one player's watering plants while the other's chopping through obstacles. The next, you're in a clock tower, messing with time itself. It's never repetitive because each new area throws something different at you. The gameplay just keeps evolving. One of my favorite sections was when one of us could fly on this paper airplane while the other navigated obstacles on the ground. It's all about trust and coordination. What I also really appreciate is how the game balances difficulty. It's not too hard, but it does require you to think and communicate. There were moments where my co-op partner and I would be stuck for a minute, but it always felt rewarding when we figured it out together. You're constantly learning how to rely on each other's strengths, which is such a fun way to approach co-op. Honestly, what really stands out to me about It Takes Two is just how much fun it is. I mean, you're not just playing a game, you're sharing this experience with someone else, and you're both equally important to making it through the story. Whether you're laughing at the absurd situations or getting a little competitive with the mini-games sprinkled throughout, trust me, the mini-games are addictive. Next we have Dead Space Remake, a game that completely revitalized a classic survival horror experience and honestly deserved a shot at Game of the Year. The original Dead Space was already a masterpiece, but the remake took it to another level, with modern graphics, tighter gameplay, and some amazing quality of life improvements. It was like stepping back into a nightmare, but with 4K visuals and even more horrifying details. First off, the atmosphere in the Dead Space remake was next level. The USG Ishimura felt more alive and dead than ever. Every creak, every shadow, and every flickering light just added to that sense of dread. The developers did an incredible job preserving what made the original so terrifying, while also cranking up the immersion. They rebuilt the whole game from the ground up, and it showed in how polished the environments were. The lighting alone made certain sections feel way scarier than before, like you're always one step away from something terrible. But here's the thing. While the Dead Space remake was stunning and faithful to its source material, some people argued that it didn't do enough to push the genre forward, which is probably why it didn't take home the Game of the Year trophy. It was a fantastic remake, but it stayed close to the original's formula, which, for some, felt more like a tribute than a bold new experience. But here's the bottom line. The Dead Space remake did exactly what it set out to do. Remind us why this franchise is one of the best in survival horror. The fact that it didn't win Game of the Year doesn't take away from the fact that it was one of the most polished and terrifying games of 2023. Next we have Bloodborne. It absolutely deserved to win Game of the Year in 2015, but didn't quite get the crown. I mean, this game was From Software at its peak, delivering an intense gothic nightmare of a world that fans still rave about to this day. It's wild to think that something this groundbreaking didn't take home the big award. First off, the atmosphere in Bloodborne, unreal. Yharnam was this dark, twisted Victorian city filled with werewolves, cosmic horrors, and nightmare creatures that just kept you on edge the entire time. The design of the world was so hauntingly beautiful, with that classic From Software touch, where every alley and hidden path had a story to tell. The game didn't hold your hand either, which was part of its charm. You had to figure everything out on your own, from the lore to the mechanics. And let's talk about that combat system. Bloodborne took the typical slow, methodical Souls formula and made it fast and aggressive. You couldn't just hang back and wait. The game literally rewarded you for going on the offense with that regain system. If you got hit, you had a window to hit back and regain your health, which encouraged players to stay in the fight instead of running away. It was like Dark Souls on adrenaline. But here's the thing. Bloodborne came out the same year as The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, and that's where things get tricky. The Witcher 3 swept most of the awards that year, and while it was undoubtedly a great game, a lot of people felt like Bloodborne was overshadowed because of that. But for those who played it, Bloodborne was a masterpiece. Next we have Baldur's Gate 3. If you're into RPGs or Dungeons and Dragons, this is basically a dream come true. The thing is, it's not just the story. It's the choices you make, the characters you meet, the dice rolls that can completely change how a situation unfolds. Every playthrough feels different, and I love that about it. First off, let's talk about the freedom this game gives you. You can literally do anything. Want to sneak past enemies instead of fighting them? Go for it. Want to convince a dragon to let you pass with just a bit of clever dialogue? Roll those dice. Or if you're feeling chaotic, you can just, blow stuff up with magic and hope for the best. That freedom makes every encounter feel fresh, and it's not just about combat. Your decisions can have lasting consequences on the story, on your companions, and even on the world itself. The story itself is wild. You start off with this mind flayer parasite in your brain, which immediately sets the stakes super high. And as you try to find a cure, you uncover all these other crazy plots and factions vying for control. It's dark, it's epic, and the world is full of so many cool little stories and side quests that it's easy to get lost in it all. The best part? You can shape the story in so many different ways, whether you want to be a hero, a villain, or something in between. The game doesn't force you down one path. It really feels like your journey. It's got that perfect blend of story, character development, and strategic combat, all wrapped up in this beautiful, sprawling world. Next we have Metal Gear Solid V: The Phantom Pain. It's one of those experiences that really makes you feel like you're in control of a tactical open-world espionage operation. From the moment you start as Big Boss, or Venom Snake, if you want to get technical, you know you're in for something special. The way the game blends stealth, action, and freedom of choice is just next level. Let's start with the open world. Unlike previous Metal Gear games, which were more linear, the Phantom Pain drops you into these massive living environments. You've got Afghanistan's rocky, mountainous terrain, and the jungles of Africa, each filled with enemy bases, patrols, and wild animals. The thing is, the world isn't just a backdrop. It reacts to how you play. You can approach missions any way you want, whether it's going in guns blazing or sneaking in without anyone ever knowing you were there. And the best part? If you get caught, the game doesn't punish you too harshly. You can adapt, think on your feet, and still pull off the mission. That freedom keeps the tension high and the experience fresh every time. The stealth mechanics, they're just so well done. You've got all these tools at your disposal. Decoys, tranquilizer guns, night vision goggles, and you can customize your loadout for every mission. One of my favorite things to do is use the cardboard box, classic Metal Gear, to sneak around or surprise enemies. It's so ridiculous, but somehow always works. And Mother Base is such a cool feature. You're constantly building it up, recruiting soldiers, developing new weapons, and sending your team on missions. Next we have Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Imagine taking a trip back to the Viking era, where you're not just any Viking, but Eivor, a fierce warrior ready to carve their own legend. Right from the start, this game pulls you in with that unmistakable Viking vibe. You're out there raiding, exploring, and building your own settlement. The combat in Valhalla is brutal in the best way possible. As Eivor, you can dual-wield weapons, mix and match different fighting styles, and pull off some pretty epic moves. The combat feels meaty and satisfying, with every hit landing with a sense of weight behind it. And when it comes to raiding, it's absolute chaos in the best way. There's something so exhilarating about sailing up to a village, sounding the horn, and charging in with your crew. You can tell the developers put a lot of love into making every raid feel intense and chaotic. Oh, and then there's the settlement, Ravensthorpe. This place becomes your base of operations, and building it up feels incredibly rewarding. As you raid and gather resources, you're constantly adding new buildings and unlocking cool features. The settlement is full of life, with characters you actually care about. It's not just a place you go to between missions. It becomes a little slice of home for Eivor and the crew. You'll spend time upgrading the blacksmith, brewing with the tattoo artist, and even feasting with your fellow Vikings. There's this sense of community that feels genuine and makes you want to see Ravensthorpe thrive. If you're a fan of Norse myths, Valhalla has you covered. Next we have Resident Evil 6, probably one of the most controversial entries in the Resident Evil series. When it came out, a lot of longtime fans were really disappointed, and it got a ton of hate for straying too far from the classic survival horror roots. One of the big criticisms was that it tried to do too much. The game had 4 separate campaigns, each with its own tone and gameplay style. You had Leon's campaign, which felt more like the traditional Resident Evil survival horror, but then you had Chris's and Jake's campaigns, which were full-on action shooters. It left some players feeling like the game had an identity crisis. It wasn't sure if it wanted to be horror or action, and that split the fanbase. But here's the thing. Resident Evil 6 isn't a bad game. It's just different. If you go in expecting a pure horror experience, yeah, you might be disappointed. But if you approach it as a crazy, action-packed adventure with some horror elements sprinkled in, there's a lot of fun to be had. The variety in the campaigns means there's something for everyone, and the co-op play was a big highlight for people who like playing with friends. And let's be honest, some of the hate was probably just because it wasn't what fans expected after the success of Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5. Those games were a hard act to follow, and RE6 took some big risks. Sure, not all of them landed, but it also had some really cool moments, epic boss battles, and impressive visuals for its time. Despite all the complaints, Resident Evil 6 still has some great moments. It doesn't deserve all the hate it got. Next we have The Witcher 3. It's one of those games that just sticks with you. I mean, where do you even start with a game like this? For me, it's the world, you know? Like when you're roaming through those dense forests, or just riding Roach across a field at sunset. There's this vibe that's hard to describe. The world feels so alive, even if it's grim and full of monsters. And you know how in a lot of games, side quests are just filler? Not here. The Witcher 3's side quests feel just as important as the main story, if not sometimes more interesting. Like, you could be hunting down a werewolf one minute, and the next, you're getting involved in the political affairs of some random village. Every quest feels like it has its own little narrative arc. It's like playing through mini-stories, all packed into this huge world. One of my favorite things, though, is how the game handles monsters. It's not just about swinging your sword around. There's actual strategy involved. You read up on your target, learn its weaknesses, and prepare the right potions or oils before diving into battle. It really makes you feel like you're Geralt, this professional monster hunter who knows what he's doing. But it's not just about the scenery. The characters, man. You've got Ciri, Yennefer, Triss. They're so well written. Every time I made decisions in the game, I actually felt like they mattered. I mean, how often do you get that in games? Honestly, every time I play The Witcher 3, I catch something new. A bit of dialogue, a small detail in the environment. There's just so much packed into it. Next, we have Atomic Heart. From the moment you jump into this weird, retro-futuristic Soviet world, you can tell you're in for something totally different. The whole vibe of the game is what grabbed me first. It's like if BioShock and Half-Life had this crazy alternate reality baby. The setting just pulls you in right away. Everything's all shiny and utopian on the surface, but you can feel this eerie tension creeping in. Like something's definitely not right here. The aesthetics? Absolutely stunning. It's got this whole 1950s retro sci-fi look, but it's set in this alternate version of the USSR where technology advanced in these weird, unsettling ways. Robots everywhere. And they're not your friendly, helpful kind either. As you're exploring, you've got this constant sense of, okay, when's the next crazy thing gonna try and kill me? It keeps you on edge, but in a fun way. Combat is intense, but super satisfying. You've got all these cool weapons, and then you mix in these crazy powers you can use with your left hand. It's like you're blasting enemies with a shotgun in one hand while using telekinesis or freezing them with your other hand. The mix of gunplay and abilities just feels so smooth and fluid. And let me tell you, when you finally master the combo system, you feel like a total badass. The enemies are really something too. You've got these creepy humanoid robots with weird, unsettling movements, and then there are the more bizarre, out there designs that look like something out of a fever dream. Every encounter feels different because the enemies keep you on your toes. Next we have A Plague Tale Requiem. It absolutely should have been in the running for Game of the Year, but didn't quite get the recognition it deserved. This sequel took everything great about A Plague Tale Innocence and cranked it up to a whole new level. The story, the characters, the visuals, it was all so much more intense. And honestly, it hit harder than a lot of people expected. First off, the story in Requiem was a gut punch in the best way. Following Amisha and Hugo's journey through a world ravaged by the plague and the supernatural rat infestation, you could feel the stakes growing as you progressed. What really stood out was the emotional weight of the game. It wasn't just about survival. It was about family, loss, and the lengths you'd go to protect the ones you love. The character development for both Amicia and Hugo was top tier. And by the end, it was impossible not to be emotionally invested in their fate. The game also looked absolutely stunning. The environments were jaw-dropping, whether you were sneaking through crumbling ruins, lush countrysides, or the plague-infested streets. The attention to detail made the world feel alive. Well, as alive as a world overrun by millions of rats can feel. And speaking of the rats, Requiem took the swarming rat mechanic from the first game and made it even crazier. The way they used light and shadow to control and avoid the rats created some of the most tense, nail-biting moments in the game. Another thing to consider is that Requiem came out in 2022, which was a year dominated by games like Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok. Next we have Hitman 3. Now this is a game that just gets the whole stealth genre right. I love how it puts you in the shoes of Agent 47, and suddenly you feel like this ultimate, cool-headed assassin. What makes it special is the freedom it gives you to approach every mission how you want. Like, you're dropped into these huge, intricately designed sandboxes, and then it's up to you to figure out how you're going to take down your targets. Do you go all stealthy, blend into the crowd, and take your time? Or do you throw caution to the wind, cause chaos, and improvise? Either way, it's a blast. The level design in Hitman 3 is just genius. I'm still thinking about the Dubai mission, starting at the top of that skyscraper. Looking out over the city from a literal cloud level, it's breathtaking. And then there's the Dartmoor level, which is like something straight out of a detective novel. You can actually pose as a detective investigating a murder while planning a murder. It's just so creative, giving you this puzzle box of opportunities to play around with. And there's always that moment when you figure out a crazy way to eliminate your target that feels so satisfying, like, I can't believe I just pulled that off. Another thing I love is how replayable it is. You finish a mission, and then you start thinking, wait, what if I tried it this way? Or, what if I used that secret passage I missed the first time? It's not about following some rigid plan. It's about adapting on the fly and making it work. Honestly, Hitman 3 is one of those games that I keep coming back to. It's smart, stylish, and just a ton of fun. Next we have The Evil Within 2. If you've played the first one, you know it's already got that creepy, nightmarish vibe, but this sequel, it takes things to a whole new level. How it blends open-world elements with that tight, survival horror tension. You've got more freedom to explore this time, but it never feels too safe. Even in the open areas, there's this constant sense of dread, like something could jump out at you at any moment. And trust me, the game knows how to play with your nerves. The enemies in this game are wild. Some of the creature designs are just pure nightmare fuel, like that multi-limbed thing guardian. Ugh, still gives me the creeps just thinking about it. And don't even get me started on the bosses. Every encounter feels intense and nerve-wracking, especially since resources are still pretty scarce. You've got to be smart about when to fight and when to sneak around. The open areas give you more options for how to approach situations, which I really liked. Sometimes it felt satisfying to sneak by enemies unnoticed, and other times you'd have no choice but to go guns blazing. The game forces you to be adaptable. The story is solid too. It's got that psychological horror aspect that really messes with your head, but it also wraps up a lot of the loose ends from the first game in a satisfying way. And I've got to say, there are some twists in there that genuinely shocked me. It's not just about the scares, it's a good narrative experience too. And of course, the crafting system is back, so you can make your own ammo and gear, which really adds to that survival feel. Next we have Far Cry 5. It's got all the things you'd expect from a Far Cry game. Open-world chaos, intense gunfights, and that sense of freedom to approach missions however you want. But this time, it's all set in the rural heartland of America, and that gives it a totally different vibe. What I loved about Far Cry 5 is how open-ended the gameplay is. You can literally do things your way. Want to storm a cult outpost, guns blazing? Go for it. Prefer to sneak around with a bow, taking out enemies silently? That works too. And then there's the ridiculous factor. This is a game where you can call in a bear named Cheeseburger or a dog, Boomer, to help you in battle. It's over the top in the best way. One of the big changes in Far Cry 5 is the way missions work. There's no set structure or main storyline that you're forced to follow. Instead, you earn resistance points by completing side missions, liberating outposts, and causing general chaos. As you build up resistance in each region, the story progresses naturally. It's a cool way to keep things feeling dynamic, and lets you choose how you want to play. There's also a ton of customization. You can upgrade your weapons, unlock perks, and even hire guns for hire to help you out in tough situations. There's a strategy to how you approach each mission, but it's always balanced by that freedom to just go nuts if you want to. One thing that stood out for me is how relevant the game feels. The whole idea of a cult taking over a rural town and pushing their beliefs on people. It's unsettling because it feels like something that could actually happen. Next we have Thief. Fans of the original Thief games loved the deep stealth mechanics and immersive world building, but when the 2014 version came out, it got a lot of flack from longtime fans and critics alike. People felt it didn't capture the spirit of the originals, and there were complaints about the clunky controls, linear level design, and a story that didn't quite hit the mark. One of the big issues was how it handled the stealth mechanics. In the older Thief games, you had more freedom to approach situations in different ways, and it felt very open-ended. But with this reboot, many players felt like it was more restrictive, with levels that funneled you into specific paths. That loss of freedom didn't sit well with fans who loved the open-ended, creative gameplay of the original series. On top of that, some of the AI was criticized for being too predictable or outright dumb at times, which kind of broke the immersion for a stealth-focused game. But here's the thing. If you step back and take Thief 2014 for what it is, it's actually a pretty solid stealth game. It's atmospheric, the dark, gritty world of the city is really well designed, and when the stealth mechanics click, it's super satisfying. Sneaking around, looting treasures, and staying in the shadows can be pretty immersive if you're not too worried about how it compares to the originals. Plus, visually, the game looks great. The attention to detail in the environments and the lighting effects really help to set the mood. The sound design is also a big highlight. Using sound to your advantage or avoiding noisy surfaces makes the stealth feel more intense. Next we have Dead Island 2. It's one of those games that after being in development for so long, you're just happy it finally exists. If you're into zombie games, this one is like a bloody sun-soaked vacation, where you can let loose and hack, slash, and smash your way through hordes of the undead. What's cool about it is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. The game knows exactly what it is, a fun, over-the-top zombie slasher set in sunny California. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. First off, the setting is great. Instead of a gloomy, post-apocalyptic wasteland, Dead Island 2 takes place in a colorful, almost absurdly beautiful version of Los Angeles. They call it Hell A, and the contrast between the bright, glamorous world of Hollywood and the grotesque, decaying zombies is just awesome. You're running through luxury mansions, beaches, and fancy neighborhoods, all while the city crumbles around you. It's like you're on a demented version of a sightseeing tour. The zombies themselves come in all shapes and sizes, and they're not pushovers. You've got your standard walkers, but there are also faster, more aggressive types, like runners and screamers who can call for reinforcements. Some are armored, others are on fire or covered in acid, and each type forces you to adjust your tactics. It keeps you on your toes and makes the combat feel fresh. You're constantly adapting and finding new ways to take them down, whether it's by using environmental traps, setting them on fire, or just going for headshots. Overall, Dead Island 2 is just a good time. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel, but it doesn't need to. Next we have State of Decay 2. This game really knows how to make you feel like you're in a zombie apocalypse. It's not just about surviving day to day. It's about building a life in a world that's gone to hell. It's got action, strategy, and a little bit of that community building feel that makes it unique. So, right off the bat, the game drops you into this open world full of zombies, and it's up to you to find survivors, scavenge supplies, and build a community that can actually stand a chance. What's cool is that every survivor has their own skills, strengths, and even weaknesses, so it feels like you're working with real people. You're not just collecting NPCs, you're creating a team with their own stories and personalities. And the best part? It's super unpredictable. You might think you have things under control, and then, suddenly, there's a horde of zombies at your base, or your best scavenger is out on a mission and doesn't come back right away. It keeps you on your toes in the best way possible. You've got to manage food, medical supplies, and even morale. If someone's unhappy or stressed, it can really throw the whole community into chaos. The base building aspect is another standout feature. You're not just finding a spot and settling in. You're creating a place to live and thrive. You get to decide where to put things like gardens, watchtowers, and beds, and those choices actually matter. Building up your base is one of those things that feels genuinely rewarding because it's not just for show, it impacts how well your group survives. Next we have Still Wakes the Deep. At first, I wasn't sure what to expect. An oil rig in the middle of the ocean doesn't exactly scream horror, right? But once I started playing, I realized how wrong I was. It nails that sense of isolation and dread right from the beginning. The setting is perfect for a game like this. You're stuck on this creaky, unstable structure, surrounded by nothing but endless water. It gives you this eerie, sinking feeling, pun intended, that something horrible is going to happen. The atmosphere is what really grabbed me. From the second you step onto that rig, you can feel the tension. Everything is dark and claustrophobic, with narrow hallways, low ceilings, and machinery clanking all around you. The sound of the ocean crashing against the metal walls is always there, adding this constant layer of anxiety. Every time I turned a corner, I half expected something to jump out. And while the game definitely delivers on scares, it's the psychological tension that kept me on edge. The whole premise is pretty cool too. You play as one of the workers on the rig, just a regular guy, and it makes the experience feel more grounded. You're not some action hero with a gun. You're just trying to survive and figure out what's happening. The game does an amazing job of slowly building up the mystery. You start hearing strange noises, seeing things out of the corner of your eye, and the rig itself feels like it's coming alive. It really gets in your head. The story is mysterious, and I loved uncovering the truth little by little. Next we have Rise of the Ronin. If you've ever wanted to step into the shoes of a samurai in a world at the crossroads of history, then this game is going to blow your mind. Right away, you're thrown into 19th century Japan, an era filled with massive change, where tradition and modernization are colliding. It's like being part of a living, breathing history lesson, only with swords, epic battles, and this incredible atmosphere that just pulls you in. The combat is where it truly shines. It's got that classic samurai swordplay feel. But there's a modern twist too. It's all about timing, precision, and making every strike count. When you're in the heat of battle, you feel this rush of intensity. But what's even cooler is that you also have firearms at your disposal, which brings this unique balance between traditional and new. So you're not just relying on your katana. You're adapting and making use of everything around you. Plus, if you're into exploration, there's so much to find. There are side quests and hidden details that flesh out the world, rewarding you for going off the main path and just taking your time. It's the kind of game that encourages you to slow down, appreciate the world, and really immerse yourself in the experience. Beyond the battles, Rise gives you these powerful story moments that make you feel connected to the people and the history of the era. You're not just a fighter, you're a part of the world's story, shaping events as they unfold. The choices you make feel impactful, and there's this sense of weight to each decision, almost like you're carrying the spirit of the era with you.